Welcome to Agenda One. My name is Shafizan Johari. We're now recording this session, special Agenda One session, in conjunction of the next Big Tech Asia 2017. All right, now basically this event is all about big data and how we understand big data. So I have here very two distinguished individuals who've been actually sleeping and playing, not just sleeping in, and working with big data. We have here Dr. Farooq Abdullah. He is the Chief Data Scientist from edX, and Dr. Tuhin Chattopadhyay. He is a Business Analytics Evangelist from India. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. First and foremost, this is the second day, and during the sessions, I was informed rather that big data is just a continuation from the older disciplines that you already have for so many centuries.
That's correct.
Statistics, engineering.
Yeah.
So, but it's just about taking it to another level.
Yeah.
Is that true, and how true is that, and how simple it could be, Dr. Tuhin?
Sure. So you have to understand how the things have evolved from the past. Around maybe for 5 decades, we were into business research, we were into marketing research, where we used to collect data from the market. We used to test or infer about the population from the sample through hypothesis testing. But now things have changed with the technology, with the advent of social media. So now if you want a data from say 7-Eleven, you can just go to the shop, and with the point of sales, you can have the entire population's data. So the previous statistical techniques don't hold true anymore, because you need not infer about population from the sample. You have got the entire population's data. So essentially, though the research aspect continues, but the statistical techniques and the infrastructure, of course, at that time we had even 100 data size would have been a big data, 15 years, 20 years back. But now
We're talking about millions.
yeah. You have got a series of computers connected over Hadoop, and we need to run the big data architecture. So yes, the roots lie in there, the philosophy lies in the research or the business research, marketing research, but how they have evolved in the current times, they are very augmented, I would say.
What do you mean augmented?
It's much progressed, advanced.
So, would it be easy? Would it be seamless? Is it that easy when you say it's just an advancement from the disciplines you have before, statistics, engineering? Is it that easy?
I think you have to take a step back. I think if you look at history and you look at when AI was first coined back in 1920s, and Lady Lovelace, she founded lots of statistical models back in the 19th century, and the evolution of data through that years. And I'd just like to say that we use data as a human race way before we use oil. So the Egyptians used data back before we even know how to use oil and founded oil. So, and data is going to hang around after oil. And that's my point of view. And I think it will just be a continually evolving process. And what happens is that you got to look at several things. So when I started, 20 years ago, it was analysis, and then that's analytics, and now it's data science, like you mentioned. It started with statistics, it's got a bit cleverer with modeling, and then it's gone to machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now in edX, we have this view where it's a combination of factors. So the world is changing and it's continually changing. And because the world is changing in a digital world, it gives rise to lots of data. And when it gives rise to a lot of data, it's coupled with cheap technologies. So technologies are actually getting really cheap, data storage and computing technologies. And that then drives the business application of data. So to your question, is it easy for the business applications then to implement and execute on it? The answer is yes, but you have to understand, and when through all the presentations in this conference, what we realize is that asking the right questions, wanting to know the right answers, is very important. So it's almost educating the C-suite educating the business leaders to actually understand what is it that you really want from data. Because being able to identify this is connected to that, is in the realm of data scientists. But is that the answer, or is that the question that you're really asking, which is very important.
Okay, now coming into it, getting data professions into your payroll, that would be very expensive, because the premium for data professionals entry level would be about 30 to 50% more than the other IT professions. Would that always be that expensive forever?
So the interesting thing is, and again I take a step back, because the interesting thing is, when I speak to organizations and you look at their finance function, for example, and they have a finance function and you have a CFO, and a marketing function, you have a CMO, you have a sales function, you have a CSO. When you look at a data function, who's leading that charge? So there isn't a chief data officer, a chief analytics officer, because you never actually want to pay that person the chief role, and the chief title, the SVP role. So in comparison, when you say, well, the entry point is 30-40%, on the other end of the scale, you're still not paying your senior data scientist, your chief data scientist, on the same par as you would pay your CFO or your CMO or CSO. So even though we're always looking at, at the lower level we're 30-40% more, at the upper level you're not increasing that ceiling to be on par with everything else. But to answer your question directly, it is always going to be like that until we realize the value of data, because that 30-40%, if you look at it from a value that person can bring to the organization, is going to far outweigh its cost, or the benefits. It's going to far outweigh its cost.
Yeah, let me add to what Dr. Farooq has just mentioned. Of course, the benefits are far higher than the cost, and the other part is that price is always a function of demand and supply. Right. Okay, price gets determined by the market from the demand and supply. So currently, data science is at a very nascent stage in many of the countries, but the more we are having lots of data science educational institutes, more data scientists would pass out. I believe when the supply would be higher, at that time market rates might come down.
All right, I totally understand what you say. It's about the question that we ask, but I'm also intrigued to know whether we have the right talent to actually answer the question, which eventually we will know what to ask. I'm going to ask you that question to both of you later in the second block. See you afterwards. We're still talking about big data here in Agenda Awani tonight, in conjunction with the next big Tech Asia 2017. So here still with us is Dr. Farooq Abdullah. He is the Chief Data Scientist of edX, and Dr. Tuhin Chattopadhyay, the business evangelist, business analytics evangelist.
That's correct.
All right. Are we getting the right data professions, the right talent, or are they still there, not coming into the loop?
Inversely, you might come as a surprise when I say this. There's a brain drain from Malaysia. There are lots of.
They're going out.
Yes, I used to work in London, and I've worked with fantastic. I would use the word Southeast Asian, Malaysian, Singaporean, Philippines talent, working over there. And actually, flourishing. And it's not necessarily about the pay. I think it's about the interest, about asking the right question, and having the people asking them that question. But to answer your question directly, again, it's quite. We are producing it. So in edX, we're doing all the right training from universities. So we have a Data Star program that is. When somebody graduates, and then we go through the whole process of, it's like a finishing school with data analytics, primarily from a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics background. But we also have the professionals, so we train them up. So somebody's been doing data engineering for a long time, we train them up to become a data scientist in our enterprise data scientist course. So the whole ecosystem is for us is looking at the data lifecycle. So we have this model that looks at your data engineering. So this is the people who take in the data, so they eat, sleep, breathe data. And then you have your data analysts. So these people visualize basic statistics and primarily do simple insights, A/B testing, and so on and so forth. And then you have your data scientists. So they are the ones that model and build the algorithms and come up with the insights. So I'll give you an example. If you have two components and you say what is the relationship between the two components, a data analyst can do that. A data scientist will look at those two components and says what other component factors do we have to take into consideration that might impact on this outcome. So it's a multiple investigation as opposed to a single track. So going back to the talent, you work your way, you don't work your way up. Google has lots of data engineers who get paid quite a lot of money and are very good at what they do. So it's not necessarily you have to be a data scientist. In fact, I just wrote an article about the data engineers are actually the new unicorns in Malaysia. It's hard to get really good data engineers, and we're training them, and they're hitting the market, but it's really hard to get that. And also what we're doing is also we have the Harvard Business Program, which trains the CEOs. So the CEOs need to be trained as well, the end user, because if not, then the ecosystem doesn't, it can't exist. Exactly. So we are getting the right talents in. We as organizations are responsible also to create that environment so that talent can flourish. So I think it's a two-prong, and we mentioned supply and demand, right? So when the supply is not meeting the demand at the moment, as everyone says, there's not enough people, but the demand has to be the right demand to keep the supply. So it's a vicious circle.
Let me add to what he has just mentioned. It's a very important point you have raised. So first thing first, that we should not generalize the education system of data science. There is a huge variety. At one continuum, I can see that there are 2 years PGD BA, postgraduate diploma in business analytics courses, where the first 6 months are taught in a statistical institute, the next 6 months in a technology institute, the third 6 months in a business management institute, and the fourth 6 months in a live project. On the other hand of the continuum, I can see the 3 months courses in data science where only 10 to 12 popular algorithms are taught. And when I ask these guys that, what statistical technique or analytics technique you have applied there, they said, I have applied decision tree. I said, fine. Which particular algorithm within decision tree you have applied? C4.5 or C5.0? No clue. So there are lack of depth at one extreme and lot of value additions on one extreme. I think with the course of time, all the education institutes will strive to come out with the best quality and add lot of values to the education system.
Well, knowing that the financial reward as a data profession is such a good one as compared to their peers in other ICT professions, that might so-called trigger a lot of interest, a massive interest from the public, especially us in Asia. That might just trigger interest from parents. Yes, they're wanting better future for their kids. Now, the challenge is how to get the right talent.
See, the fundamental aspect is, or the right index or the right metric is not the money. It is about the passion. Whether the kids are really having that quantitative aptitude, do they really love numbers? Are they passionate about analytical thought process? If those things are there, then only the parents would channelize their kids to this profession. Otherwise, the child loves painting, and since there is some money in data science, everybody is getting channelized data science. It is a very wrong decision for the child.
I think, for me, I see data science, why I entered data science back in the day wasn't for the money, because there isn't any money in data science at that time. And for me, it's a vocation. And I always liken the career of a data scientist as a vocation. It's like you being a doctor, you be a nurse, there are boring times in that career path. Yes, not every day is going to be exciting and we're going to solve the world's problem. No, some days you're dealing with quite boring stuff. But I think for me, when you look at talent and you look at how does somebody want to come into this, one, you have to have the vocation. Second, I think I look at 3 things really: persistence, someone who has persistence, somebody who has logical thinking, and somebody who's creative. And I think it's I saw yesterday's presentation. It's 50% science and 50% art, and 90% creativity, right? So the challenge is this: that if you're looking at it from a financial reward perspective, to exactly to what you've just said there, it's not going to be a career for you.
Yep.
Because there will be days where you walk in and you say, why am I doing this? Just
Absolutely.
for the money? You really have to like and want to do data science, because there will be days where it's just, you know, it's like any role, any job. It's gonna be.
It's not at all uncommon. People, make money in the first 2 years, have a bigger car, bigger apartment. Then what next?
Yeah.
Traveled around the world. Then people start getting frustrated if they don't love their work.
All right. Okay.
You sense the passion from us, yeah.
So passion number one.
Yeah.
You raised one issue about educating the C-levels to actually create a harmonious ecosystem to make it jive.
Yeah.
I want to ask that more in depth later in the next blog.
Sure.
So don't go away. Welcome back to Aganawani. We're still talking about big data. Well, when we use this term, big data, in any business presentation, you're just going to get them. You're just going to get it. You say it's just a sexy word, it's how you get your superiors or your bosses to actually love you more. Say, oh, big data, wow, such a mysterious, but yet, something that is promisable. But I'm afraid it's just a savvy word. People, in this case, the C-level still do not understand this. They don't really have the soul to actually, to actually take aware of the knowledge. Am I right, or this assumption is just pure fabrication?
So interesting you mentioned that, because in ADEX, part of our role is obviously talent and growing the talent in Malaysia, and it's very important for us to grow that talent in Malaysia. And the other side of the scale, which is the demand side, which is about educating the CEOs. And we have this program called the data-driven organization model, a maturity model, which looks at different components of being a data-driven organization. And part of it is about, obviously, data analytics and technology, but the other side is about business strategy, culture, and talent. And the CEO needs to understand that. So we do several sessions, or I personally do several sessions with CEOs. It's part of my role, to kind of inform them of these are the components that you need to take into consideration when you're building your data, to become a data-driven organization, which means you don't take data analytics as a project. You don't take it as a side thing that happens.
Embrace it in totality.
Correct, and you embed it into your organization.
Absolutely.
And then you become aware that actually I cannot make the decision if I don't have the support.
So currently the C-levels are looking at it as a specific department.
In most cases
which
that
is
we come
wrong.
across. Yes, which is not.
So the point is here that what do the C-level executives do? They take decisions. Their decisions only bring money and show the vision to the organization. Okay. Now, how will the decisions be taken? Based on only experience or intuition, or data-driven decisions? So the moment we can map the decisions with the analytics, it would be useful. And I remember many of the B schools nowadays, starting from Harvard to Kellogg's, they are designing programs only for the senior executives who need not be a data scientist, but who need to take decisions based on analytics. So
What kind of insight, or what kind of things they learn?
So how to take decisions primarily based on analytics, based on data, where it is not about being hands-on on data science, but from an organizational perspective, you need to drive the organization, how analytics will support you.
And this program are widely available. You mentioned Harvard Business School.
It's a kind of only 7 days program for Harvard and Kellogg's, competing with analytics.
But how to make it available? How to make this available to all, let's say, from startup level to SMEs?
So that's what ADEX do. So I connect with you just given me my job description back. So I connect with startups. We just had an event in ADEX, which is for the Open Data Institute, the ODI, where we look at pure startups. And I engaged with a really interesting startup, was from Indonesia, and she collected street vendors data. And she came to me, so she said there's an app, and we're creating this app where you can tell where the food are for street vendors. And she said, Farouk, I need to advise on how we build this app more functional. And I said, you're missing the point. Your value in that data, where you can sell to travel agencies. Can you imagine if you can sell to travel agencies to know where the street food are? If you arrive in Jakarta late night one night, I'd like to know where to get some food. And right through to the multinationals, the big companies in Malaysia, I've engaged with their C-suite to look at how do you then start building this roadmap, because it's different needs. One is, how do I make my business model and make my next buck or get to my next funding? Two, I need to repurpose my organization and to stay relevant in the future, because it is going to change from big data, and it is going to change through the digital era, and it's going to change through artificial intelligence. The way we do business, the way we live, and more importantly, I guess, is the way we interact with each other.
All right. So pretty much at the more corporate level, there are still, as I pointed out before, the CEO might say, okay, why don't you do this big data project, but the challenge is embracing it, making it a culture. Where are we now?
So I think we're still behind the curve, to be absolutely honest with us. We're still behind the curve.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, and we worked, I worked with lots of organizations in the UK that have done this 7 years ago, right? And some of them even 10 years ago, where they said, CEO says enough is enough, we have to do something about it now.
Yep.
And it's not a bad thing behind the curve, because you learn from lessons and you can leapfrog, leapfrog a lot of things, the mistakes that was made before. And I think as we need to do it now, and there's no doubt about it, Southeast Asia needs to do it now. It needs to wake up and embrace this challenge. And we have, in IDEX, we have this DDO, the Data Driven Organization, but we also have a roadmap on, we educate the C-suites to say, how do you build this roadmap? It's not just about data, technology, analytics. What about the rest of it all as well? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is still at a very nascent stage. It is not that it is completely virgin, but organizations are taking it off at their micro level in some pockets. But yes, if it's completely digitally driven, completely data driven, answer is still no. We have to completely embrace the technology across the departments and let the organization be even a department like HR, for instance, which is traditionally very manual, honestly. But there are a lot of scopes to embrace even the technology in those departments. So I believe there is a long way to go, and this is the high time we should take that move.
All right, thank you very much, doctors,
You're welcome.
for your kind insight into big data and where we are now in terms of the users, the talents, and the corporations. So that was the discussion. We talked about big data here in Agenda Awani in conjunction with the next Big Tech Asia. You might have your own ideas and recommendation on how we should move forward from big data analytics point of view. Share that with us in our social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so much more. I'm Syafizan Johari. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.